Hey, everybody, it's Father Edward Looney, and you are tuning into This Past Week. You may have noticed that last week there was not a This Past Week wrap up, just a kind of a reminder that these are additional bonus episodes, you could say, an additional series within the umbrella podcast. Hey, everybody, it's Father Edward. I simply lost time last week on Saturday, lots of things demanding my time, and I just didn't get around to recording and publishing an episode. So sorry about that if you were looking forward to it. We will publish these episodes when I have the availability and such. Before we get to the main material of the show today, the what I saw, what I read, what I watched, um, I'd like to just share a few things that are coming up. First of all, Lent, Ash Wednesday, coming very soon. If you're looking for a devotional book, a daily devotional to accompany you through Lent, Praying with the Church Through Lent is my latest book. It is based on the collect prayers, the opening prayers at Mass. Let us pray, and the priest prays. In the book, we break down the prayer. What's it saying? How is it speaking to me? How can I live this prayer? What am I asking God for? There are also journal reflections as well that you can write in and really make this a spiritual journal as well. That's Praying with the Church Through Lent, available wherever books are sold. Secondly, I'd like to draw your attention to February 26th. I am giving a presentation via Zoom to a group of Marian scholars in England for the Center of Marian Studies. You don't really have to be a scholar to attend. So if you'd like to join, I'll post the link to learn more about the presentation. So if you'd like to join, I'm speaking about Maria of Agreda and Anne Catherine Emmerich and the Passion of Mary alongside the Passion of Jesus. So just looking at how Mary suffers alongside her son. Hopefully, if you're able, you can join. If you register, you'll get the video link afterwards, is what I'm being told. Let's see. Third thing, I'll be on Life on the Rock the first week of March. So you can see me on television in that regard. And lastly, just want to mention, as Ash Wednesday approaches, I know I have a book. I know, like, as a content producer, sometimes you ask a lot of the people that follow you, and really it's up to you what you want to do. So I'm not forcing you to do anything. But beginning on Ash Wednesday, from the Dolorous Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ from Anne Catherine Emmerich, we begin Volume 4. We begin the Passion account, and we read it for the 40 days of Lent. I read it. I comment on it. And then on Easter Sunday, we're going to have a special episode with the resurrection account of Anne Catherine Emmerich. So I would love it if you would subscribe to that podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you subscribe to podcasts. I have a lofty dream, goal, vision. Don't know if it'll happen. But what I really want is I want to see Anne Catherine Emmerich, this podcast, The Life of Jesus Christ in a Year, from Tan Books, that I am the narrator and commentator. I would love to see it in the top 200 of all the podcasts of the religion category. So I'm not going all of the 200 top podcasts. I just want religion. I want Anne Catherine Emmerich to trend. I want the Dolorous Passion to be listened to by so many. I'll tell you this, as I've been reading it, I've been recording the episodes, this is some of the most profound stuff I've ever read in my life. If you want to love Jesus more, read the Dolorous Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ. Subscribe to the podcast. Allow me to read it to you. Reflect on it. If you have 30 minutes a day, it's 20 to 30 minutes. If you have a commute, if you're doing things, listen to the podcast. See what difference, what it does to your soul. Okay, those are all the advertisers. So now let's get to today's topic. And let's go back in this past week. What did I see? What did I read? What did I watch? And what did I write? So I know we have about 2 weeks to cover. Probably won't cover 2 weeks. We'll just cover the topics that I have on my mind already. I think we're probably going to go a little shorter than the half hour that we've been going to, just FYI. So what I saw, You might remember this segment. What I saw is really me reflecting on things that I've seen on social media that I could comment on an article or a post or whatever. So, um, I I can't say that anything really like over 2 weeks even really stood out to me. Now, I will comment on two things, and it's things I've seen over on X or Twitter. So, over on X this past week, there's been a lot of posts that I've seen about this. They call it catfishing. There's this catfisher named Hannah. Patriarchy Hannah was the handle. Essentially, this person basically created a false identity, created this influencer account. And then, over the last few weeks, it's been revealed that, well, she isn't who she said she's been over the past year or two. You kind of wonder, how do things like that happen? All of these people have been duped, right? People that talked with her. And interestingly, she never would do video things. She would only do audio. So like, I think there were certain red flags in this whole thing. But it's just impressive that someone could pull off a scam like that. I think she probably was monetized. I think she was able to make money on this fraudulent thing. So you wonder, what are the repercussions? What are the ramifications going forward? But I think, too, you look at the person and you're like, what led you to do something like that? To deceive so many people? It's just a crazy thing. And it's been interesting just to see the comments that people have made as they've really been breaking it down, as they've been, a lot of like amateur sleuths, they've able to uncover all of this stuff. So patriarchy Hannah, that's something that I saw, and just kind of disturbing. And I think it raises a red flag for us. Like, if you've never seen some of these influencers you're following in real life or can trace them, if they're anonymous accounts, be weary, be leery of them. I guess some people sent her pictures of their family and all this, and and now everybody's really worried, and rightfully so. Like, what is she going to do with these things? And, some people are worried, like, I don't know, like blackmail or something like that, that she's going to use these things in a way that she shouldn't. I think it just comes down to, like, how much stock are we putting in influencers? Now, there are lots of influencers I follow, and from what I can tell, they're real people. They post their pictures, they use their names, they share, so I think they're real. Some of them I've met in real life. But just be careful out there online. Another thing, my good deacon who serves with me at the parish, he called me and he said, hey, you sent me an email, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of these scam emails. Just know that I or your pastor, I saw this too on social media. So what I saw that a bishop, I think it was Bishop Parks, there's a post like, Bishop Parks will never ask you for gift cards, okay? Like, just know that. I'm never going to ask you for a gift card. I will happily receive a gift card from you, but I'm not going to ask you to give gift cards for something. If I am, I'm going to publish it in the bulletin. I'm never going to do it through social media, through email. If I'm going to ask you for a gift card, I'm going to ask you directly in person. It's never going to be an email. The key to these things, check the email address. So like the deacon, he looked at the email address, told me what it was. I'm like, yeah, that's not my email. And so that's how he knew too that it wasn't it. So be careful out there in the online world. Do not let people take advantage of you. The third thing, I'll just say what I saw. All week, we all have been praying for the Holy Father, for Pope Francis, that he would, for his health, that he would recover. And so, of course, what you see a lot of people commenting on this. Some people are talking about who the next pope will be already. Well, I don't know if that's good to be conjecturing this when our Holy Father is still alive. You have people, yeah, just lots of different wide reactions. It is comical, and I say this, just looking at how the news or the church has released statements like the Pope woke up this morning, he ate breakfast. Okay, well, that's good. You know, just very basic statements. So I think a lot of people have enjoyed kind of the lightheartedness of some of these updates. Like they're not very serious updates. So as it comes to the Holy Father and to his health, we just continue to unite in prayer for him and around him. He's 88 years old, suffering with double pneumonia. Like, that's tough. I know kids in the school who had pneumonia and they struggled, hospitalized and such. So imagine a pope with half a lung gone, what it's like for him. So if you're dealing with the Holy Father, posting about him online, do so very positively. Don't make negative comments. Don't what we should be doing now is we should be praying for him. So what did I read? That's what I saw this past week. What did I read? Well, I read, I was on a plane. What was it? Now, almost 2 weeks ago, I flew out to EWTN to film Life on the Rock. And when I finished the book that I was reading, which will be what I wrote, that's what I'm going to talk about. But so when I arrived in Birmingham in the airport, I stopped at the bookstore before leaving. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pick up. I every time I go through an airport, I always go to one of the bookstores and I look around and I see, what the books are and just see what's popular or what's standing out. And sometimes I add them to my want list on Goodreads or hope to read list. So I picked up a novel, actually. It was called, and it had caught my eye a few times. And I think it even caught my eye at Barnes and Noble when I stopped into Peru's the other day. But it was called Everybody on This Train is a Suspect. It's a novel. It's actually about like a writer writing a novel. It's very interesting. I'm on about like 120, 140, I think. Interestingly, I haven't picked the book up since the plane ride. So I need to do that. I need to pick it up. I need to continue reading it. What I was really like dumbfounded by was I started reading the book on the plane and I got to like 120. So my takeaway was just simply how quicker it is for me to read something for fun than it is for me reading Anne Catherine Emmerich. I've been reading her 2,600 page Revelations. I have like 43 episodes left to record. And, I've read it, but each one, like if I'm reading 8 pages, that's about 22 minutes before I get to my commentary. If I'm reading 10 pages, like the episode's around 30 minutes total with the commentary. So I don't read Anne Catherine Emmerich as quickly as I'm able to read a murder novel, So I don't know. That was just, I know it's kind of like, should be a give me like, yeah, if you read a novel, it's going to be quicker than reading a dense theological work, but really hammered home to me this past week. So what I wrote, I was looking at my desk over here because I wrote a book review, and it'll be published on Homiletic and Pastoral Review. And the book review was on this little short treatise about Mary. It was called Behold Your Mother, something about the wisdom from the saints. And a nice guy reached out to me, told me I could request it from HBR, wanted me to write a review. So I did. I think I wrote a fairly balanced review. I found a few things that maybe I, had questions or issues with. But I thought it was a good treatment about Mary. And I think sometimes we need these shorter little primers, if you will, on different subjects and topics just to get us thinking about the topic maybe in a different way. And Peter Kahn's an that's the author. Peter Kahn is an outsider to Mariology. Like he specializes in other things, but he wrote this about Our Lady, and I thought it was interesting. But that's what I wrote. I wrote a book review. Now, HPR, Homiletic and Pastoral Review, they had to get on my case for that book review. It was supposed to be submitted probably months ago, and it was one of those things, maybe you've had this experience, but maybe not, but maybe somehow in your own life something real similar. But I was sitting on my desk, and again, I read half of it on a plane, and then I never picked it up again. And so it was just sitting on my desk. It's constant, and it was only 95 pages. Could have read it a lot sooner. So it was just staring at me months ago. I should have written this book review. It's one of those things that once you write it, because like your deadline is there, you're just so grateful that it's done and over with. That's how I feel, relieved that this isn't like over my head right now. So that's what I wrote, a book review. What I watched. Just going to share 3 things real quick, what I watched. First was I watched Paddington in Peru, went to the theaters. Honestly, it's a movie that I wouldn't necessarily go see, but I went to see it only because I was interested in the fact that this nun was in the advertisements, in the trailer. I'm like, oh, I wonder how they depict a Catholic nun in this movie. That was the only reason I went to see Paddington in Peru. Went to see the movie. I was a little disappointed in the portrayal of the nuns, but that's okay. My whole life is used to disappointment of the Catholic faith in film. The nun that is kind of the central figure of the nunnery. There are other nuns, but the one that plays a critical role in the story, of course, turns out, different things. I'm not going to spoil it for you if you want to see Paddington in Peru. But suffice to say, it wasn't my fave. It was okay, though. I haven't seen the other Paddingtons, so that's an interesting thing. So I was jumping into the storyline of who Paddington is without really knowing that much. There were, some elements like St. Anthony was referenced, or no, St. Christopher, patron saint of travelers, was referenced in the movie. Things like that. Interesting take. Second, what did I watch? I watched a movie called Trial by Fire. It's on Netflix. I think it's from a few years ago, so like recently acquired on the Netflix platform. It was about a gentleman who was sentenced to death for the fire that killed his children and such. They believed he intentionally set it, whatnot. And as the movie unfolds, and I went and I looked up some of the story behind this online. It's based on a true story. Like this guy sentenced to death, put to death, was really exonerated after his death. And so makes you think a second time about the death penalty. If we're pro-life, we're against the death penalty. And just seeing a movie like that, it's just a compelling story that should convince others and convince others about the death penalty, about it not being right and how mistakes are made and people's lives are ended. And this guy's whole life was ruined. And, maybe there's bad investigation, all of that, but trial by fire, just, yeah, I think it's a challenge to the death penalty. And finally, what I watched this a few weeks ago. I watched The Unbreakable Boy in theaters now. The Unbreakable Boy is a true story about a young man born, his parents, his parents were not married, when he was conceived, I don't think. The lady, the mom, she had, a disease like, something like brittle bones or something like that. Kid gets that. So Unbreakable Boy. So that's part of the title, Unbreakable. Like he breaks his bones, but he himself, his spirit is unbreakable. He also has autism, so that comes out. It's a really powerful, true story, inspirational story. I really saw notes of forgiveness in the movie. You just see the struggles that families face. I don't have a family, but I serve families and I see their struggles. And, just to see another story play out online, you know, the struggle is real, what people face and such. So that is The Unbreakable Boy. I'd recommend it. If you're looking for an inspiring flick, go see it. I saw a few movies in theaters, and uh, I go to the Marcus Cinema in Green Bay, and they had little teasers for Unbreakable Boy. Not just the trailer, but Greg Marcus, the CEO of Marcus Theaters, he interviewed the real life person, before the movie. So Marcus was really promoting this true life and true story film. Part of the reason I think Marcus invested in it was because Austin, the young boy that the movie is about, he actually works at a Marcus Cinema in Omaha, Nebraska. So that's why Marcus probably got behind promoting one of their own, but good to them promoting a very positive, upbeat film. So that's also what I watched this past week. There is a lot going on. We're all preparing for Lent. And I'm looking forward to this season of Lent and all that it will bring. Lent each year is a rediscovery, I think, for us. A rediscovery of the love that Jesus had for us. So this upcoming week, I'm on the road again, just for a day, uh, a day or two. Also, we'll be writing that paper that I'm giving in England via Zoom. So keep me in prayer. Until next week. Until next time, I should say. Because who knows if there will be a next week. Until next time. God bless you.